Before that, I was the Manchester United fan.
Oh, okay, I'm leaving. Bye. Catsenal.
You want to share with Korean Arsenal fan about Edu or recent forward?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good question. I think there's been a lot of changes in the executive structure at Arsenal over the past 2 years. Raul Sanllehi, that was quite a big. Richard Garlick is coming in from the Premier League, so he's going to be the new head of football operations. So it's the same kind of role that Dick Law was doing, and he will work alongside Edu, and I think that's really good because Richard Garlick, director of football at the Premier League, so it's a very big role that he has. He's going to be important in getting contracts done and stuff like that. That's enough. But in terms of interesting things, I think Tim Lewis, he's the non-executive director, so he is the lawyer for the Kroenke family, and he's a very influential guy. He was one of the reasons behind Raul Sanllehi leaving, and we call it like the cost-cutting measures. So a lot of the things that Arsenal have done in terms of the scouting department, stuff like that, Tim Lewis is kind of involved in that, is behind that. I think maybe his aim is to become Arsenal chairman one day. That's my opinion. I think that's probably what he wants. I think he's an Arsenal fan. He goes to every game. I've seen him in the director's box at games, and I think he is like the man on the ground for the Kroenkes. So when the Kroenkes aren't in London, he's always there. He's always looking at what's happening. So it's one to look out for in terms of if Arsenal are not playing well, then he is someone who will be telling the Kroenkes about it. That's enough.
Been changed so much, but nowadays it's all settled down. It's all good to go.
It's all settled. I think the problem before was there was maybe too many people in the executive structure. And I think Mikel Arteta didn't want too many people as well. I think he likes a small team of people. But you're right. I think as well, Sven Mislintat is another person. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think he's a very, very talented technical director. And you see at Stuttgart now, one of the best young teams in the Bundesliga. I think he's another person who could have been really successful at Arsenal, but he decided to leave in the end. That's enough. But Sanllehi, again, I personally like Sanllehi. I know a lot of Arsenal fans and journalists and media, they have negative thoughts towards Sanllehi, but I think he's good. And whenever I've kind of dealt with him or spoken with him, he's explained his decisions and explained why. I remember asking him about the Cedric signing, I think last summer. And this was before Cedric had really played for Arsenal. We knew that he was a good player. And I said to him, this was a bit of a strange signing. And he said, well, Arsenal, at that time, they didn't have any money. Cedric was a good option and it made sense. That's enough. And the same with Willian. I asked him about Willian. I said, why did Arsenal sign Willian? And he said that Mikel Arteta and Edu are obsessed with Willian. For Edu, he's an obsession since he's been in Brazil. He said he knows about his medical history. He knows everything about the player, everything. And Arteta loves him as well. So it was quite interesting to speak with him, but to see how those decisions are made. And again, I think that he's a very respected person in football. That's enough.
So you're moving to, good way after, sending these guys away?
Yeah.
Right direction?
Yeah. I think Arsenal are on the right path now. They have the right people at the club. They don't have the perfect squad. They still need to sign the right players. I think Mikel Arteta wants to play in a 4-3-3 formation eventually. He said that before. But he said they were 5 or 6 players away from playing in the 4-3-3. He signed 2 or 3, still needs 2 or 3 more. And then I think Arsenal will switch formation. I think he wants to play like attacking football, fluid football, like we saw against Sheffield United, that kind of football. But I think Arsenal are on the right path, definitely. That's enough.
Any guess about who's gonna be that 2 or 3 signing?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot there. That's a tough question. Like I said, I think Arsenal are in the market for a right back, a left back, an attacking midfielder. say Ødegaard is the attacking midfielder. At left back, it's more difficult to predict because I think Arsenal prefer to sign someone young, 22, 23 years old, who can compete with Kieran Tierney, is going to be ahead of Kieran Tierney because, Tierney is really good. Catsenal.
There is a question about Arteta. Failed to make the behind build up, and a lot of guys ask a question about, is he asking Arsenal players too much?
Yeah, I think Mikel Arteta's attacking philosophy, long term, he wants to play like that. He wants to play attractive football, and building up from the back is one way of doing that. I think all of the Arsenal players are technically good enough. I think people have different opinions on who is world class, who is good, who is bad, but they're all technically good footballers because they're playing in the best league in the world. The consistency is something that comes with games. And I think Arsenal this season, especially in defence, they haven't had a settled back four or back three. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. If you don't play regularly, then how can you become a master at that passing from the back and the build up from the back? It's very difficult. Catsenal. So I think once Arsenal have a settled defence and a settled team, that is when you'll see an improvement. And I think you saw against Sheffield United. I know Sheffield United are not very good. They're the worst team in the league, but at least you could see what Arsenal are trying to do. And I think that's a good sign. I wouldn't say that the Arsenal players aren't good enough to play out from the back. I think they are. I just think it's about having consistency. And of course, Mikel Arteta wants to bring in new players as well. Catsenal.
All right. Another kind of stupid question. Do you tell so much about Arsenal transfer? AFC Bell, do you know?
Yeah, I've heard of the AFC Bell account. Yeah.
And there's a story going on in Korea. AFC Bell is Shkodran Mustafi. Do you know anything about AFC Bell? Is he famous in England too?
I think he's built a reputation for breaking transfer stories, but I think it's not just one person. I think it's a group, 3 or 4 guys based in the Middle East. So I think in Kuwait and some other countries as well, contacting agents and people close to players to get information. So it's like a group of journalists. They're not journalists, but it's really impressive. They've done really well. But I don't think it's Shkodran Mustafi. Catsenal.
Is there something problem with our medical team? I mean, how so much people get injured? Is there something problem with the Emirates Stadium? Is some kind of grounding? What is it?
I think there's been a few cases this season where the players have wanted to play when maybe they should have been rested, carrying a small injury. And then they've said to the manager, the physio, I'm okay. And then they've been played and then they get injured. That has happened a couple of times. But no, I wouldn't say Arsenal have bad medical staff. They have very well-qualified doctors, physios, some of the best in the world. The club doctor, Gary O'Driscoll, is very experienced and he's very good. I think it's a mixture of things. It's so difficult to keep players fit at the moment because of the amount of games that they're playing. So hopefully next season, when the games will be more spaced out, we'll see less injuries. But it's been a very tough season for the players and the physios. Catsenal.
There is a question about the VAR too. The red card about David Luiz or something like that. Especially Arsenal and FA, are they in a bad relationship?
Yeah, there's been lots of bad decisions this season, but not just for Arsenal, for every team. I'm an Arsenal fan, but as a journalist as well, I can see that VAR is new and there are still problems with VAR. It's not perfect, and it's a tool to help the referees to assist them. But what I would say is that some of the decisions have been really bad. Like the David Luiz one against Wolves was really bad. So I can understand why the fans they think, but that's not the case. Every team has had a bad decision against them this season. An offside, penalty. But I think with VAR, we're getting there. The one thing I don't like about VAR is that it ruins the the emotion of the game. Like you can score a goal and you think it's a good goal, and then you have to wait for 30 seconds. I don't really like it, but I can understand why it's needed, because teams can be promoted, they can be relegated on a decision like that. So it's financially as well very important. Catsenal.
Mesut Özil.
Oh,
Any behind about he doesn't play, he leave the club, well, about China, about the dinosaur guy, everything.
okay, I don't want to get in trouble, so let me think.
Sure.
No, Mesut Ozil, I think, loved by a lot of people around the world, not just for what he does on the football pitch, but also for the stuff he does off of it, charity work. And I've seen that with my own eyes, having worked with him. But as a player, in his last season, he didn't do enough. He didn't do enough for me. And I think that's why Mikel Arteta left him out, because he wasn't contributing what he wanted him to contribute. And what I said earlier about all the players putting in the same amount of work on the training ground every day, that's what he wants. And if you don't do that, then you're out of the team. But from what I know, it has nothing to do with China or any comments or anything like that. It was footballing reasons why Mesut Ozil didn't play. Catsenal. My kind of thing would be if Mesut Ozil was still at the top level, how he was at Real Madrid, then he would have joined a big team, a big European team. But he's gone back to Turkey, which is fine. It's his right to do. He wanted to go back to finish his career in Turkey. So good luck to him, because I think he's having a tough season at the moment with injuries, but he was a good servant for Arsenal. And I'm sure a lot of fans will remember him for those amazing assists and some great goals as well against Liverpool, Ludogorets, many goals. So, yeah, that's all I can say, really. Catsenal.
Does he need to be more, good at defense?
Maybe. I think he's a traditional number 10. So maybe a few years ago, you could get away with not having to defend or track back as much, because the other players in the team can do that work for you. But now when you have a player who doesn't defend, who doesn't track back, it's almost like you're playing with 10 players or 9 players with the goalkeeper. That's enough. But it's a difficult question to answer, but I feel like Mesut Ozil was coming towards the end of his career. He's not a player who's ever tracked back, but he is also in his 32 years old. So he's at the right club now for him. And like I say, good luck to him, and hopefully that's enough.
And the Granit Xhaka, some guys want to know, they want to send him away. Is there any alternative who can doing his role in Arteta's soccer? Controversy going on in Korean Gunners. Can we, win the trophy with him or not? Some kind of things.
We have won a trophy. We won the FA Cup with him. Don't forget. But I know what the Arsenal fans are saying. Can they win the league with Granit Xhaka in midfield? And I think Arsenal can win the league, but they also need other players around Granit Xhaka. I think Thomas Partey is a great signing, good for Arsenal and for Xhaka. That's enough. But you asked me, how is he perceived in Arsenal? And he's really respected by everyone. He's a leader on and off the pitch. And what is quite sad is that he doesn't get the credit playing at left back. I think if it was an English player playing at left back, people would be saying things differently about Granit Xhaka. But because it's Granit Xhaka, he doesn't get that much credit. And what I like about him is that he has such amazing stamina. He's played so many games. He doesn't stop. He's like a battery. I think if you take him out of this Arsenal team, they struggle to kind of create chances and they struggle to hold the midfield. So I think if Arsenal lose Granit Xhaka, then they're going to need to spend 20, 30 million to replace him. He's had these moments of madness, but he's also had very good moments, which people don't talk about. So like I say, I'm a big fan of Xhaka, and hopefully he gets a bit more credit. That's enough.
Some guy says he so far the play of the season for Arsenal. Do you agree?
I'm not sure. I think he's one of the players of the season. Yeah, definitely one of. I'm not sure if he's the best player this season. I think Bukayo Saka surely has to be up there. I think Kieran Tierney, before his injury as one of the best players. There's a few players who have been good, but I think we're Arsenal now in 9th, 10th place. I wouldn't say there's anyone who you can say, he's been amazing this season, because of the league table, it kind of shows you. But yeah, Xhaka has been one of the best players for Arsenal. Catsenal.
Is he a better player than he used to be before he joined the club?
That's a very good question. I think at Mönchengladbach, he was the main man. He was the captain, the youngest ever captain at 22 years old, I think. And he was such a leader in that team. At Arsenal, he's not. He's more of the kind of quiet player who does the job that no one really talks about. I think that has been a big challenge for him, to go from being the star in Germany to not the star in Arsenal. Catsenal. I can't say I watched him play that much in Germany, so I can't really say if he's improved from then. But I would say, most players, they improve, don't they, with age, maturity. You'd like to think that he has improved. I think under Arsene Wenger, he never played in the position that he wanted to play in. I think now Mikel Arteta is getting the best out of him. Catsenal.
More behind rather than center. The pivot, number 6 role.
I think Granit Xhaka is better when he plays in a bit more advanced. I don't think he's a defensive midfielder. That's my opinion. I think he's better at reading the game and passing through the lines. I think that's his strength. I don't really like Granit Xhaka as a defensive midfielder. I don't feel like, but he has played there. He can play there. The good thing about Xhaka is that he can play in any position on the pitch. If you, like Mikel Arteta said, you ask him to play centre forward, he can play. I'm sure he could play as a goalkeeper as well if he wanted to. Catsenal.
Well, you pick Cedric is the best right back. But nowadays, the Arteta is using Callum Chambers a lot. Is there any talk going on in England? Who is the number 1 right back of the Arsenal?
Yeah, I think that's a discussion that people are having right now. I think Chambers, he's done really well. He's come into the team. I wasn't expecting him to play this season. I thought he was going to be sold in the summer. But because of the injuries, he's managed to get some games and he's done really well. But I don't think he's someone who should be starting every week for Arsenal. I think in certain games, like against Burnley, where the opposition are very big and they like to play it very direct and in the air, that's when he can play well. But saying that, he also played well against West Ham, and they're not a team who play that kind of football. So he's a good utility player to have. Catsenal. But I think Arsenal's best right back is Cedric, because he can cross the ball very well. He's good in the final third. He's a good passer. He's a very intelligent defender, and he can defend as well. Hector Bellerin, I like him, but I feel like over the past few seasons, he's not progressed. I think he's very comfortable at Arsenal. I think he just needs a new team, maybe Barcelona, maybe PSG. I think this summer he could go. So will be interesting to see what happens with him. Catsenal.
So who's going to be our captain and vice captain next season? After the Bellerin guy is he spent a lot of years in team, right?
Yeah, no, he's a leader of the team, and Aubameyang's obviously the captain. Xhaka, I think, the vice captain, and then Lacazette if he stays. And there's even Rob Holding is a leader at the back. I'd like to see him maybe one game next season. There's lots of leaders in the Arsenal team, which is good news. Catsenal.
So unlikely, a lot of leader in Arsenal.
True. Yeah, I think the past few years they've struggled to have leaders in the team. Loads of people have said, Arsenal don't have any leaders. I think they do. Maybe the problem was that they didn't have a manager who really had a plan that the players believed in. I think the players believe in Mikel Arteta's plan, which is a good sign. And that means maybe it's easier to lead on the pitch as well. Catsenal.
If Laka leaves, do we need a new guy?
No, I don't think so. I think Arsenal have Gabriel Martinelli. I mentioned earlier, he could be the long-term replacement for Lacazette. Balogun as well. So that's 2 very good forward players. I think if you buy a replacement for Lacazette, I think Edouard from Celtic, Arsenal like him, but I'm not sure it would be the right signing to sign another striker. Unless you send Balogun on loan, you sell Nketiah, then maybe there will be a space for him. But right now, I think it would make sense to keep Lacazette for maybe one more year. He's a good option to have. You know, you can see how many goals he's 17 goals now in all competition, and he's always been reliable. So I think it's good to have him. Catsenal.
But sending another guy with free, you know.
Yeah, this is the only problem. But Arsenal, they may weigh up their options and think, you know, they can sell him for 15, 20 million this season, this summer. But then they will have to pay for a replacement for 30 million, 35 million. So maybe it's better to keep him. He knows the club, he knows the league, he scores goals, double figures every season. Maybe it would make more sense to keep him. I don't know for sure what is going to happen. I think it could change because like Aubameyang did last season, Lacazette is doing the same. But right now I'm thinking it might be a good idea to keep him for one more season. Catsenal.
Right, that's the part 2 of our questions, and only part 3 is remaining.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to have a drink now.
몇 개
Just
남았어요?
couple of questions. 한 5개?
5개?
물어보면 더 할 수 있긴 한데.
Catsenal.
Our vote, what's their final goal? Do they want to win the league?
So it's a good question, but I would say 2 different answers. I think the ownership are happy with qualifying for Europe and making sure that the finances are stable each season. Of course, they'll be happy to win trophies because that means the club will make more money. But I don't think there is the demand to win silverware like there is at Manchester City, at Chelsea, at Man United. I think it's very different. Catsenal. Arteta and the players, of course, they want to win trophies because players, they only play for maybe 10, 15 years. They want to win trophies because that's what you're remembered for. Things I would say, like the owners are very different from the manager and the players. But we have seen Arsenal win a trophy last season, which was great. And I think there will be more to come, but they need to invest in the players. They need to buy the right players. And who knows what will happen. Catsenal.
Do you think that Thierry Henry is going to be a good coach someday?
I don't know. I don't know really. I think the clubs he's managed at, Monaco and Montreal. At Monaco, he had a difficult spell. I think he didn't have the players that he wanted at the club. I think that was one issue. At Montreal, he had a lot of injuries and obviously had the coronavirus. And from speaking to people there, he did okay. Whether he can be a good enough manager in the Premier League, I think is a big step from the MLS to the Premier League. Catsenal. I do like Henry because his mentality is to always be the best and always be a winner. But so far, I don't think we've seen his best qualities come out as a manager. I'd like to see him get a chance in the Premier League, maybe at a lower team or a championship team, and see what he does. And then maybe it's easier to make a judgment on how good he is. I don't know if he's good enough to be Arsenal manager. Like my heart says that he is, but my head is probably saying I'm not so sure. But who knows? Anything can happen in the future. Catsenal.
Nowadays, a lot of players became the coach. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Solskjaer, Scott Parker. Yeah, watch them, doing as a coach.
I was surprised by some of them, like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. When he was playing, I never thought he would be the Man United manager one day. Yeah. Scott Parker, I think Frank Lampard, these are kind of players you could think, he's going to be a manager because they're kind of leaders on the pitch. I think Mikel Arteta as well. It's crazy to think that he was an Arsenal player only a few years ago. He was a good player for Arsenal. He was the captain, and it's a nice story that he's now the manager. Catsenal. I think it's a good thing that the players, they go into management afterwards, and it shows that there is life after playing, because a lot of the players, they retire and they don't know what to do. Some of them, they lose their money. Some of them like health issues, like mentally, because they find it very difficult. So I think it's good that ex-players are going into management, and hopefully we'll see more of that. Maybe Bukayo Saka, next Arsenal manager in 2060. Catsenal.
Mavropanos, William Saliba, do they have a future in Arsenal team?
Mavropanos, anyone who follows me knows how much I like him as a player. I think he's fantastic. He's one of the fastest defenders in the Bundesliga. He's overcome his injury problems and he's now one of the best defenders in Germany. And he's 23 years old, so he's a bit older than Saliba. I think Arsenal, there's two options. It's either one more loan deal, so one more loan deal maybe to Stuttgart again, or they could sell him. That's the possibility to raise funds for players. Catsenal. With Saliba, I think he could go on loan again. He's going to be looked at in pre-season. So if he's good enough, or if Mikel Arteta wants him to stay, then he will compete for a place in the first team. So both defenders are very talented, but I think Mikel Arteta has seen more of Saliba, and also they paid £27 million for him. So there's a lot more pressure on Arsenal to make sure Saliba does well. Catsenal.
And Saliba is not good enough to play for the first team yet?
I don't think it's a case of he's not good enough. I think technically he is fantastic defender, but there are certain things in his game which Mikel Arteta doesn't like. I think one of those things is that he loves to come out from the back, kind of like David Luiz. But David Luiz does it very well, and he's very experienced. So he knows when to come out and when to stay. When I've seen him play, I've been to some games when he played for Arsenal, the under-23s. He was taking players on. Like, he wanted to beat players one-on-one, which is not what you want as a centre-back. That's not the centre-back's job to Catsenal. Because Saliba used to play as an attacking midfielder, he kind of plays like an attacking midfielder. But I think he's done so well at Nice. I think he's got to get a chance. I think Mikel Arteta might give him his opportunity next season. He just needed a bit more experience and to work on those tiny things in his game as well. Catsenal.
Can we keep Bukayo Saka for a long time?
Yeah, I don't think Bukayo Saka is going to leave anytime soon. I think he'll be at Arsenal for the next few years, and unless Arsenal got relegated or something like that, which I'm sure will never happen. But maybe when he's later on in his career, when he's 26, 27, maybe he might want to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. That happens a lot with a lot of players, so that could happen. But I think Arsenal are very happy with him. Saka is happy at Arsenal. He's a Gooner, so I don't know why he'd want to leave. Catsenal.
Any player you want to get him back right now? Recently, like Aaron Ramsey, or
Yeah, when Aaron Ramsey is fit, yes, definitely. When he's a fully fit Aaron Ramsey, he goes straight into the team. And I always like Wojciech Szczesny, the goalkeeper. I liked his personality. He was a really good goalkeeper. It's kind of sad when he left. And the striker, I would say Robin van Persie. I know he's finished now, but Robin van Persie, such a good player. I wish Arsenal kept him. Catsenal. The same for Samir Nasri as well, who, joined Man City. He did okay. He won the league, but he could have become an Arsenal legend if he stayed. And Alexander Kleb as well. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. The player I loved watching so much was Alexander Kleb. Just such a skillful player, really clever passer. He's one of my favourite players to watch. Catsenal.
Don't know why. Why did he leave?
I think he was a Barcelona fan as well, so he decided he wanted to go. But it happened a lot with Alex Song as well, with Thomas Vermaelen. Barcelona came in for these players, and you can't say no to Barcelona because they're such a big team. But I think he said he regrets leaving Arsenal. He said it several times that his biggest regret in his career is to leave. Catsenal.
It was good all the time. 2007, 2008 was it? Rosicki, Fabregas, Flamini, and Gleb.
It was an amazing team. Arsenal. We should have won the league that season. That was the Birmingham game where Gallas was sulking, crying on the pitch afterwards.
Same memory. That was the first year when I became the Arsenal fan.
Okay. The same as Catsenal.
Yeah, right. 캐스널님도 2007년, 2008년에 아스날 팬이 됐다고 하셨는데,
네.
네, 그거를 읽은 모양이에요. 그래서 지금 그 얘기를 하는데, 저도 그때가 첫 해였다.
Catsenal.
Before that, I was the Manchester United fan. I mean, frankly, Pakistan.
Oh, okay, I'm
Pakistan.
leaving. Bye. I'm done. Catsenal.
Finally, we are out of questions for you.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's only been 2.5 hours. Oh my god.
Wow.
Time flies.
It's been great to speak to you both. I'm really grateful that you invited me on to speak with you, and it's been a pleasure. And thank you for producing those videos that you've been making, because they are, like I said, fantastic. And I'm learning something new from watching those videos. When I watch it and I think, wow, I didn't even notice that.
It's been like 10 years, more than 10 years I support the team, and this is the really great moment to share with.
Thank you. And the feeling is mutual, and I hope that I can come to Korea one day. It's my dream. My friend, he always says he wants me to come to Seoul to show me around, and I'd love to meet you guys one day. We can watch a game in the pub if you have pubs in Seoul. I'd love to come and watch a game.
This Corona thing will end, and we will see each other in London or at Seoul and anywhere. Yeah.
Definitely, 100%. Catsenal, thank you very much. I'm privileged to be a journalist covering Arsenal. It's like my dream job. So, I'm happy to give this kind of enjoyment to you guys as well, because it's like a dream for me writing about Arsenal. The feeling is mutual.